So now it's time to start working on the uh, first floor. I want to put in my appliances and sinks and other items that go into the model. I'm happy with the floor plan in terms of the location of the walls in general. There's always going to be a little bit of fine tuning that might come a little bit later, but for the majority of this plan, everything looks really good. I might have to move a wall a little bit here or there. Not a big deal. All right, so if you uh, notice that I have taken the time in my template to actually go to a place like Revit City to get some other components that I want into my project. So if you look, let's see, if you look at this is in the model that we're working on. I've taken the time to put in base cabinets, uh, base drawers, upper cabinets, pantries, different kind of base cabinet. I have a drawer, microwave drawer that goes underneath the counter. I have a double washer and dryer. I have a nice range. I have a range hood. This is a kitchen with a backsplash, the dishwasher, my refrigerator, a smaller pantry, and then I have a stack of 2 ovens and a microwave in the wall unit here. And then I have a bathroom already laid out with the sink, the backsplash, the mirror, countertop, and under cabinet sink. So I've already taken the time to add that to my project. And it's not a bad idea. If you take a look at my first floor plan, it's just basically I have all of those objects really right here loaded in. Oh, and of course the sink, the island sink with that. And I think I showed you a rendering of this in the previous tutorial. But having all of these loaded into your project is quite simple. And many of these are wall-based, so I have to put in a wall. And it's just off to the side. And when I finish my model before I complete it and it's done to go out for printing, I'll delete all of these things. And I also have all of my stacked walls here as well. You can see I have a section that cuts through all of those stacked walls. But anyway, this is what I get loaded into my project, and it just makes it easier to, rather than going searching for it every single time. So you can do this, or you can do it individually if time is not of real great importance to you. So the place to go is to Revit City, revitcity.com. You definitely need to join, and there's a place where you can join, but I've joined. It doesn't cost any money to join, but you have to provide them with your username and an email address, and Revit City will send you a password, and then you can download all of the items that they have loaded in. They have a pretty nice selection of objects that are nicer than the ones that you're going to find in the traditional Revit library. And what has happened is that people make their own models, their own little families, and then they upload them to Revit City. So sometimes their particular model doesn't follow the Revit, the way that Revit families are supposed to be made. There might be a slight difference to them. But for the most part, they're pretty good. There are standards for making families, and sometimes the people that are making these don't follow those standards exactly, but they still work. So for example, if I wanted to get a kitchen, if I wanted to look for a cabinet, I would just type cabinet into there and then hit search, and you'll see that Revit's going to search, and then it will show me all of the cabinets that I have to choose from. And if I see something that I like, I simply click download now. And if you're working in Revit 2020 or 2021, many of these objects are made in an earlier version. So let's look at this. This is made in 2012. So if I click download and then try to open it up, Revit's going to give me this message here that simply says that the family that I'm trying to download has been created in an earlier version of Revit. As you can see, that was 2012, and I'm working in 2019. So it wants to upgrade the model, which is fine. So we simply say upgrade the model. It opens up that particular object. And if I look at it and review it and I like it, I simply come up to load into project. And if I have a lot of projects open, it'll ask me which project. And this one is project 3 that I'm working on. So I would say, okay. And then it would actually put that into my model. So I'd have it available. And that's what I would recommend that you do just to make your life easier is go get all of the things, your kitchen sinks, your refrigerators, your dishwashers, all of the things that you might want, and just put them off to the side. So that's Revit City. You can join that. It'll make your model look a lot nicer. So anyway, here we are. We're back to that. I want to, this is, and that's my kitchen, or that's my bathroom. I have the countertop made. This is the mirror, and all of these are parametric. So I can change the height of the mirror as a parameter. I'll show you that as I start to do it. Yeah, I did make a change to that. So I'm going to save it and I'll say, okay, I'm going to override it. Okay, so anyway, here we have it. This is my first floor. So I'm going to type WT so I have both of these objects open at the same time. And I'm going to start, let's start with the stove right here. Okay, so I'll just say create similar, come over here, there it is. So I'll hit the space bar until it flips it around to where I want it to be. And there's my stove. It's inserted into there. I also want that, that's ceiling based, the fan, so I can't put that in yet because I don't have any ceilings in my project. All right, so let's see. Now there's two ways to locate this cooktop or oven. And one is to center it on the space from here to here. And the other would be that we have upper cabinets here. We could center it on that space. So let's grab this just for me to demonstrate that. And that's entirely up to you. The upper cabinets are a foot. So now I could also say, let's center that based on the center line of the range and the upper cabinets. And I could say okay to that, and that will slightly move my, oh, I picked the wrong spot. Well, let's clean that out of there. Let's unconstrain that because it's constrained already. So I have to delete this guy, and then I'm going to copy this guy. Oops, let's get rid of this and say unconstrained. And then I'll copy this back again. I already had the object constrained, so I couldn't constrain it again without paying attention to unconstraining the first constraint, which was centered from this point to the center of here to that point. Now I'm going to go from here to the center and say constrain it. And that didn't work again. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there because that is actually where I wanted it to be. Is centered on this space from here to there. And I'm not sure why that didn't work. Okay, so now let's see. This is my stacked ovens. So I'll say create similar, and I'll come over here, and I'm going to put those ovens that I've already created, and I'm going to put those right here for now. I might want to align that a little bit better, so I'll come over to the align tool, and here's the face of the countertop. And there we go. That may or may not be exactly how I want it to be located. But anyway, I have it in there. I've got my ovens. I got my cooktop. I'm looking for the kitchen sink. So I'm going to grab this guy. There's a lot of pieces here. I'll hold off on that one. for now. Let's see where. Anything else I want? I know I want a kitchen sink over here, and I'll put that in after I put my countertops in. Okay, so what other appliances would we want? Again, we want a dishwasher, but that'll come in after I put the sink in. Oh, refrigerator. Ah, very good. We do want to get a refrigerator in there, so I'll right-click, create similar, come over here, click on that, and now spin it around. Yeah, that's an okay location for the refrigerator. And let's align that. And if I stop to take a look at what I've created afterwards, I may or may not like what I see, and I might change it around. I might have put the refrigerator here, but let's try that. Let's see if that works. Let's move this guy because I really don't like the refrigerator where it's at. I'll just right click and say create similar, and let's see if we can fit it over here. Yeah, it looks like it'll fit. I'd rather have that refrigerator next in this location. I think it's a better spot for it. And let's line up here with that. Okay, so I do like that better. It looks like there's enough room for both of those. Now, some people would argue that you have something that's that creates a high temperature next to something that wants to have a low temperature. So some people would argue that this is a bad arrangement to put the oven next to the refrigerator like that, because this is creating heat and this is trying to expel heat. You're adding more heat to the perimeter of the refrigerator. It might be a little inefficient to do that in terms of energy consumption, but functionality, I think that works pretty good. Let's take a quick picture of that and see what we're doing so far. I'm just going to come back here and take a picture of what we have. So far, I've got my refrigerator, and I have my stacked unit above or next to that. I have the stove or the range over here. If I type WT as I continue working, I'll be able to see. Maybe make that a little bit smaller because I just want to look at it. I'm not actually going to work on it. So there we go. I've got the three views here now. And the reason I put the appliances in first is because I need to know where I need the countertop to stop. And obviously the countertop is not going to go through the cooktop, and now it's not going to come on this edge or this side either. So let's save our work. It's always a good idea to do that. And now I want to start putting in countertops. And countertop is an extrusion. So we're going to make an extrusion, which is something that we haven't done yet in the class. It's not that difficult. But if you've used SketchUp, then you know how to make extrusions. But if you haven't, then you're about to learn. So the two things that we need to explain to Revit I'm just clicking WT because I want the floor plan to be over here. I want the floor plan to be the biggest. So I click on an object and just type WT until I get the arrangement that I want. And I wanted the floor plan over here because it's just a little bit bigger than it was over here. So I need to see these things, but I'm really working over here. So I wanted to make it a little bit bigger. We're going to make an extrusion. We have to tell it two things. How thick is the extrusion and what are the borders or the boundaries of that? So we have to create the extents of the extrusion, both in a plan view and in a 3D view. So we come over here to architecture. We have this component, but we're going to do the drop down, and we're going to say we're going to model this in place. We have to tell it what family, and I generally put it in casework. And then it's going to give us a casework and add a number after it. And this is fine. You can change that name, but I just leave it like that. Now, we're going to make an extrusion, so we have to tell Revit we're going to make an extrusion. And now Revit wants to know, well, what's the boundary of that extrusion? So I'll use the rectangle and simply click here and here. There's the boundary of that extrusion, and Revit wants to know what's the thickness of it. So now Revit's asking us, well, where does it start and where does it end? So I'm going to say my countertop is 3 foot tall. So we're looking over here in the properties. And that's the top of the countertop, and the bottom of the countertop is 2 feet 10 inches. So now I have a thickness. It's a 2-inch thick countertop. This end of this extrusion is at 3 feet, and the beginning of this extrusion is at 2 foot 10. Last thing I want to do is give it a material. And I've made a green marble, which I think looks pretty good. So I'll use that. And so now I've given it a material, I've given it a thickness, and I've given it a boundary that I want that extrusion to exist within. And I'll click on my green arrows. And you can see what I just did here. So I'll make this a little bit bigger and bigger. And so I've just put in a countertop here. Put in a countertop that is 2 inches thick and follows this perimeter. Let's change the resolution of this to realistic, and you can see, well, that didn't work too well, did it? It's hard to see, but that's my green marble. It renders really nicely. We'll talk about that. But if you haven't got that kind of material in there yet, then it's okay. What I would choose instead for my material is you have this 4-inch porcelain tile. So I'll just say tile. I'm going to search for tile. And then we have this 4-inch porcelain. And that is what I would recommend that you start out using. You can always change it later, but it does a good job of rendering it to show you what it looks like. And in here, you can see the tile looks like that. I would change it in the end to a different material. I would use my green marble, or if you want to use some other material, that's fine too. If you wanted wooden countertops or tile countertops, marble countertops, concrete countertops, you can make whatever you want. So I'm going to make another extrusion here now. Back to the architecture tab, back to the component drop down, model in place. I'm still going to put it in my casework. It just adds another number after the word casework. You can change that name if you want to. And now I'm going to tell Revit I'm doing an extrusion. It's going to default to the parameters that I've already set up, the constraints. And I'll switch this to the tile just because it presents better. But I'm going to come back in the end and change that. So I'll type in tile again. And there's my porcelain tile. I'll say okay to that. Everything is good. I can just click it. Oh, I didn't give it the perimeter yet. So I'll continue. And I have to define the perimeter of it. I didn't do that. Revit said, hey, you didn't define the perimeter yet. And say okay, and say okay. And now let's take a look at, well, now I put another countertop in right here. That's my island countertop. So you can see how quickly and easily I've got this starting to lay out. Back over to the floor plan, architecture, component, model in place, still using the casework. It's going to say casework 6, that's the next number, and that's fine, I don't change those. I'm going to do an extrusion. I need to define the perimeter of it using the rectangle. It's going to go to there. Okay, the parameters, it's tile, or the constraints, it's the porcelain tile now. The thicknesses are right. I'm okay with that. I'll say all right, and I'll say all right. And now you can see that I have another countertop next to my oven stove over there. And then now I can do this if I want to. Let's just copy that. I've already made it. To make it quick, let's just copy it to right there. And using the grips, I'll drag it down to where I want it to be. And now let's take a look what I've just done. Okay, so see now I have another countertop over there. And in just a few minutes, I've managed to put in the countertop for my kitchen. I'm going to quickly do the same thing again, but I'm going to copy it this time just to be lazy. And I'll come over to here, and then I'll drag this guy down to there. Copy it again. From where? Well, let's copy it from this corner to where? To this corner right here. And then might be okay. I don't know where that edge is. So you can see I'm using the guidelines that I've created before in order to put my objects into the plan. So let's copy this guy now. From where to where? We're going to copy him from this corner right here over to this corner right here. And then I can just drag him up. Actually, I have a bath. This is how you'll do it, but I have a bathroom already, a bathroom sink and everything already made. So as a family, so I'm going to do it this way for the purpose of demonstration, because this is how you would do it in the class. And then we can grab this guy, copy him over. From where to where? From this corner right here to where? To this corner right here. And now I need to drag him down. I want to be able to see that edge, so I pull him back a little bit more. Okay, so now there's my countertops are in, except for the laundry. So where do I want the washers and dryers to be? So I'll just click on that and say create similar. I'm going to come over here to this, hit the space bar till it comes around. And where am I going to put the washers and dryers? Well, if I put it on this side and I'm working in the office, and maybe I'll be able to hear the washer and dryer running through the wall if I don't sound insulate that. But if I put it over here, the plumbing is already in this wall for the bathroom, so the plumbing will go in there for the washer and dryer. So I think it makes more sense to put it on this side, but where to actually locate it? We want some kind of landing space when you first come in here. So let's put a dimension in here just to see what we have. And maybe I'll change that to, let's have a 4-foot landing space, okay? So now when I come in, I'm gonna have a place if I come in and I wanna just drop something off right here, I can, or I could walk over and drop it off onto the island. And one thing that I like to do, and I've done this in my own house, is I have 2 washers and 2 dryers. And I think that makes a lot more sense for doing the laundry, that you have, if you go to a laundromat, you have a multiplicity. You have a multiple washers and dryers that you can use at the same time. And when I was building my house, one of my best friends had a beautiful laundry room in his house, but he always went to the laundromat. And I said, Jerry, why do you do that? Why do you go to the laundromat when you have such a nice laundry room that's so convenient at home? And he said, well, I can load up multiple washers and dryers at the same time. So I got my pencil. Well, I used AutoCAD at that time, and I was going to say I got my pencil. And I'll erase some things and put in a second washer and dryer. But I did put in a second washer and dryer in my plans, and when I built the house, I actually built it that way. And I'm very happy with that. I really appreciate having a second washer and dryer in there. So, I mentioned this to many of my clients as a possibility, and often they look at me like it's crazy thought, and they don't want to do it. And others are fine with it and very happy that they did afterwards. So anyway, that's just an option for you. So now we're going to copy this countertop again from here over to here. Remember, we just put we put these things in as guidelines. So now I'm going to drag this countertop back to here. Really want it. These are little spacers here to make sure that there's enough space between the washers and dryers. All right, so I've got that. Let's see if I'll grab this guy right here and drag him over to here. And I need to modify this guy now. So I'll come over here and I'll highlight it and then come up to the ribbon. We're in the modify casework and say edit in place. And then I'll click on it again and I will say edit extrusion. And now I have my magenta lines, and I can delete this one and continue to draw the boundaries that I want this particular countertop to be. And I don't need to put one in here because I already have that. I'm going to use trim extend to get this guy in. And then I'll keep drawing. Well, I have that one there too. So I will draw from the end point of here, snap to the end point, back to the wall, down here, and over to here. And I already have the other lines in there. I'll just use the trim extend, or like I say, fill it. And there's my countertop. Looks good. I hit the green check mark and hit it again. Now I have my, you can see I have all of the countertops in on the first floor now. The lavatory in the back hall, the powder room. This is the guest bathroom. I have my butler's pantry in here. I have my kitchen in here. Now, if I decided I don't want this countertop to go all the way to there as I refine it more, I can just drag it back to wherever I want it to be. Line it up maybe right here. So this may end up being my kitchen, but it probably is. And so see, I have this guideline. I'm going to simply click on that, right click and say, select all instances visible in view. So that's selecting all of the, whoops, it's not letting me do that. All right, so then I'll do it this way. I will click on this and come down and use the eyeglasses and say isolate category. So now there's all of my guidelines, and I can just delete all of those, come back down to the eyeglasses and say reset, temporary, hide, isolate, and I've got my countertops back in there. I've got all of the countertops in there, and the guidelines are gone now. So if I delete that for a second, you can see that there's no guidelines underneath it any longer. So we put the guidelines in just to help us lay out the countertops. Once we worked on the guidelines and got them in the right locations for what we were thinking about, and I just came back in and put my countertops in. So now, don't see any other place. I still don't know what I'm going to be using this room for. If it's a bar, maybe I would put a countertop in there right now. If it's a broom closet, I might just put some doors in there, but I haven't decided, so I don't know. Hit the save button.